Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are live on LinkedIn and Facebook, and today this is episode 3 of Working Mom Academy's weekly webinar. And I would like to thank my guests today, Charlie Fernando, Aakriti Mahindra, and Tasmiya. I will introduce them later, but today our topic is very, very interesting: how to talk so your husband and kids will listen. For those of you who are joining on Facebook or on LinkedIn, I would love to hear from you. Of course, send us your questions, tell us where you are joining us from, and at the end of the discussion, of course, you're feel free to ask any question. My first question to you: are you stressed because your kids are not listening? I used to have this problem. My kids have always been very busy and always have to shout or to get their attention, and I always find it difficult. But after learning some NLP tools, I was able to now have a very smooth relationship with my children, and there's no need for me to shout. So on this webinar today, I will share 3 powerful NLP tools to help you have a powerful and nourish connection with your children. My next question: do you find it difficult to communicate with your husband? We have an expert here, a great dad, Charlie, who'll tell us more about that. But I will also share my personal journey of has able to improve my relationship with my husband. And do you want to know what are the 3 steps to powerful communication? If you did answer yes to any of these questions, then you are on the right live webinar. Now, you might think, why communication, right? I learned that communication is the number one problem, not only at home, but also at work. It is the lack of communication, it is the absence of communication that can make or break something. But what I also learned is good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. This is why, if you already are very good in communication at home, you can always bring these learnings at work, and I'm sure you can always succeed, not only personally at home, but of course professionally. And if I hope I can introduce myself. For those who don't know me already, my name is Wandalin Tankalupig. I am a mother of 2 girls. I was raised in an all-girl family because my dad died when I was 9. So it was very tough for me to always deal with men because I never knew how to speak to them. So when I had my husband, it was very difficult for me to understand him. And also, when I was working, I was surrounded by men, especially when I'm working in Dubai. So you can imagine it's a male dominated corporate world. So it's kind of challenging, but after learning these NLP tools, I was able to really communicate it more with my boss, with my colleagues, and especially with my husband. I am also the founder of Working Moms Academy, and I built this academy when I experienced burnout in 2014. It has been my mission to really help others become happier. And I've downshifted and reinvented my career to align with my purpose and family's needs. And I'm really passionate about training and coaching. And today, let me introduce the other people who's Tasmiya. Can you please introduce yourself to everybody who's joining us live today?
Hi everyone, my name is Tasmiya and I'm a recent psychology from Heriot University, Dubai. Currently, I serve as a member councils for all children included who deals with children of determination. So my role is to approach schools and lay out plans for children of determination on how they can progress in education. And I also have hands-on experience in providing mindfulness and verbal therapy to cancer patients. And this I learned through my internship at Mediclinic City Hospital. So I was working under the oncology ward. I was dealing with patients who were going through chemo, who were going for surgeries. And also, as a psychology student, I understand the severity and the need to, broaden mind towards mental illness, or what is the advantages of practicing a good mental health. And what I'm looking forward in my future career is I want to establish something for cancer patients, mainly a psychosocial group gathering for patients so they can see and meet people of their own kind. And I'm also planning to enroll in King's College London for my master's by September 2021.
That's very good. Thank you, Tasmia, for that introduction. Tasmia is the eldest child of her family, and I invited her to this conversation because I don't know only a mom like me to speak, but also, from a child's perspective, understand what are their thoughts about parents. And of course, we're also joined. I would like to thank Akriti for your time. Akriti, can you introduce yourself,
Thank you
please?
so much. Hello, everybody. I'm Aakriti Mahindra. I'm a licensed psychologist, and it's been more than a decade that I'm in the field of mental health. So I have been trained in different clinical setup, from child development clinic to rehabilitation center to mental asylums to marriage and counseling clinics. So I have a very vast area where I have learned a lot, and I'm seeing clients from adult to teenager to children for behavioral problems, marital problem, family therapy, and I do cognitive behavior therapy for OCD, for anxiety. It helps there are times when we don't understand what is happening. So when we have a proper guide where we can teach, and we can make the other person understand that this is happening and why this is happening. So it is basically how we change the cognition. This is what is my role in psychotherapies. And currently I'm working in a center called Small Steps. So the center is a in-house center in GEMS Founder School and GEMS Mizhar. So we have ADHD and autistic children, and we work with them with the ABA therapy. And along with that, we make the children go in the mainstream classes with the ABA therapist. So the child understand that they are working in the school, they are going to the big school and in with the same children. So they are not like segregated as a special need children. So we focus more on their therapies, and I do comprehensive psychological assessments to help them diagnose with ADHD, autism, learning disability, if somebody has academic problem, behavioral problem. So I do all kind of assessments. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Akriti, for that. Akriti is a mother of two young boys. She looks very pretty and very young, but she's
Thank
a
you.
mother of two kids already. And I would like to thank Annette Caraballo. She's joining us from LinkedIn. Thank you, Annette, for joining us. And of course, last but not the least, my friend and is a dad of four kids, Charlie Fernando. Charlie, please tell us about yourself.
So, I'm Charlie Fernando. I'm based in Manila. Yes, dad of four kids. My eldest is 25, taking up medicine, and two boys in between. And then I have my youngest 13-year-old girl. So, two boys in the middle. I am an entrepreneur doing a lot of IT and telecom work in the Philippines. So, that's it.
Thank you,
I'm supposed
Charlie,
to
for
just
that
listen, right? I'm a
introduction.
guest listener. Na.
Thank you, Charlie, for that introduction. We will have a very interesting discussion today. As you know, our topic today, for those who are just joining us, how to talk to your husband and kids will listen. So I am joined by Akriti, a psychologist mother, Tasmia, the eldest child in her family, and Charlie, a father of four, because we really want to talk about this discussion. So, moving forward, let me just talk. What is Working Moms Academy? For those of you who don't know it already, this webinar is sponsored by Working Moms Academy because it is a platform and community that supports mothers struggling with stress and burnout by providing education that schools lack. Because the truth is that, I never learned something in education about how to communicate with my children, how to communicate with the opposite sex. This is why Working Moms Academy is sponsoring this kind of live webinars to help people understand how can you really communicate well so your husband and kids will listen. And let's move to the topic now. Today, I will talk about what are the three steps to powerful communication. These steps, you can use it at home and also at work. The first step is all about what? Knowing yourself. I love this quote from Aristotle. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. When I studied NLP in 2014, I never understood that every person has a different communication style. And they said, when I became a parent, it became a puzzle to me as well. Because yeah, I have two kids whose age now 11 and 8. Now, when I shout, my eldest will immediately cry. But my youngest will totally ignore me. And I was like, it's the same voice, it's the same sound, but different way received from my kids. And I learned that because see, my eldest is auditory. So she understands and connects more to me by the things she heard and said. So when I shout, she immediately feels sorry and feel upset, and she just cries it out. But on the other hand, my youngest daughter is a visual person. So even if I shout, she will, it's okay, it's normal. But when she sees my facial expression, because my facial expression will also vary depending on the gravity of my emotion. So that is when she will respond to me. So it is very important to understand in knowing your kids and also knowing about yourself. Because for me, I'm a visual person. My kids might speak something to me which might offend me, but I'm really not that offended because I always allow my kids to speak their thoughts and then have a discussion about it. But what really upsets me is visual. When I see the house in a mess, when I see their, assignments or whatever things is not in order, that is when, I really get stressed. So knowing yourself is very important in communication because I learned I as a mother have a very different way of communicating and my kids similarly have a different way also of receiving the information and communicating to me as well. So maybe Tasmia, you can share as a child, what is your experience? Are you auditory, kinesthetic, or visual?
I'm kinesthetic and visual actually,
Okay. So
because
how do you perceive it? What happens when your dad or your mom shouts to you?
first I'll start crying, and then because I don't like high pitched tones and I don't like it when someone is disappointed in me. So I will start crying immediately and then I will start expressing it through my facial expressions, like silent treatment and ignoring or just needing a space to first control my emotions. And then I will go and express and communicate what I didn't like about how they expressed to me.
Thank you for sharing that. Akriti, I know you have two boys, right? Who are very young. Are they the same?
So I will say one thing that before knowing ourselves, when we talk about a very technical term on auditory or visual or kinesthetic, so very important thing we should understand that when we want somebody to comply with us, or when we want somebody to understand what we are saying or to know, so we should understand that um, on what thing, on what people, like for example, if somebody is saying to me, what are the main characteristics what we are complying to. Say if you want our child to understand one thing, and just imagine yourself, if somebody is saying something, are we listening or are we understanding what they are saying? And if we accept what they are saying, this means what are the understand the characteristic, the tone that other person is saying. So this will help us to make our child or our partner also understand that, okay, if this is the tone or this is a non-verbal cue what we are giving or what we are saying, this works, so this works for our kids as well. So before knowing yourself, you sit down and ask yourself that what kind of person we are. Okay, because generally we don't ask ourselves what do we like. We just go with the flow as a parent, as a mother, as a wife. We are just going with the flow. Do we sit down and think, okay, let me just cook this for us because we really want to eat that? We are always thinking, let's cook something what our kids want, what our husband wants, what he likes. So knowing ourselves is very important because it will help us to deal with the situation around us. Okay, it is like what words we like, so probably the other person will also like that word. What things, what emotions we are getting upset with. Okay, so maybe the other person in front of us might be get upset with the same emotions. And what body language we don't like for example, when we talk, there are so many times we are using our non-verbal cues in a different way. We are cutting our maybe vegetables or doing our work, and our kids are saying something and we are like, okay, okay, okay. So the other person is seeing us that, okay, she's listening but she's not interested. So these are very important things when we talk about communication, when we talk about yourself. So always stand where you are and think on the other person's perspective as well when you're not getting the same response. So it is very important to know ourselves that what, like, at times we ask ourselves, I don't know why am I upset, what is making me cry, and why am I anxious, why am I angry. So we ask these questions, but we don't have the answers for it. Why? Because we don't talk to ourselves often, not even like, how, I don't think so. We talk to ourselves very often. Like when we sit down at the end of the day, do we ask ourselves how productive we were? What did I do? How much time I gave to myself? It's all about family. It's all about friends. It's all about cooking and cleaning and doing things. So I think it is very important to give time for ourselves to understand things better. Yeah.
That's very powerful. I understand that. I think as a parent, especially if you are clear in terms of how do you want to be perceived, how do you want to communicate yourself to your children, the clarity is very important. Thank you for sharing that. Before we move to Charlie, let me go move to the next one. Do you know this NLP tool? If I say now, don't think of the pink elephant, don't think of the pink elephant, don't think of the pink elephant. Are you thinking of it? I mean, I used to communicate like this to my children. I will say don't. But I realize the mind doesn't understand negative words. So instead of saying to my children, don't jump, they will jump more. So I say stop jumping. So for those mothers, for those parents who want to communicate well with their children, it is very important to use the right language as well. And also, I remember I will always tell my husband to buy me something, and I will always say, "Don't forget to buy or don't forget to bring." But he always forget, and I also learned that this is my core problem. The way I communicated to my husband, instead of saying "don't forget," I should say "remember." So, Charlie, with having four kids with different ages, how are you using this positive and negative words correctly or wrongly? Can you share your thoughts about this?
So, okay, let me try and think and remember.
No problem. But I
Right.
remember, Charlie was my
So I
classmate
think,
when he
yeah.
did NLP. Yeah?
So I think I've always been aware that we're not supposed to use any negative words. And besides, I don't talk too much. It's my wife who used to do most of the talking.
Ah.
So yeah. So most of us were listening. That's how I will. That's how I will try and remember, because this my kids right now, they have their own lives. The youngest is 13, almost turning 14. So most of the time I just kiss and hug them, and they're in the computers most of the time. This way, during ever since the pandemic came. But let me share you one of the ways I communicate. I communicate with them by going out on dates with them individually. So it's difficult to communicate as a group, uh, but then making them realize something. Uh, the technique that I do is, like right now, my daughter now stays away from us because she's in medical school, and my way to bribe her for us to go out is for me to ask, where do you want to have dinner? So,
Ah,
and when she hears that, she thinks of where to go. Okay,
wow.
so, and she always finds a way for us to go out. Maybe once a week. Oh no, maybe once every 2 weeks. Maybe once a month.
That's very
The
good, right?
that's let me see. Let me see. I think 6 months ago, I asked. We've not been seeing each other for so long, and I said, "Where do you want to have dinner?" And she asked me, and anywhere. Yes, I said anywhere, and we had to drive for an hour and a half to go to Tagaytay.
Wow.
Tagaytay is a place 1.5 hours away from where we are. It's in the mountains. So we had the dinner one on one. I had the whole night with her. So just being together, sometimes words do not mean so much. But then maybe that's how I would say it. I don't really talk so much, but it's really more of the actions than the words. So that's how I would. I think that has been my technique with most of the kids.
Thank you for sharing, Charlie.
There
For
you go.
those
That's my theory.
parents, yeah, thank you, Charlie, for sharing. For those dads who are listening, I totally agree with Charlie was saying. If you really want to improve your relationship with your children, you can bring them out one-on-one for dinner because it's the best time. I started doing that when my kids were smaller. They have so many things they want to say on their own alone. And it really helps you develop a great connection. And jumping also to what Charlie said, he said, I barely speak, but my wife does the talking. That is actually what is in the next slide now. What they said, according to study, we women speak about 2,000 to 20,000 words per day, but men in general only speak about 500 to 2,000 words per day. Understanding this concept is actually a game changer already. Like for me, I used to talk, and my husband doesn't speak much. And I will always ask him, "Do you have a problem? Are you upset with me?" And he even gets annoyed because I ask too many questions. But then I realize, he's been very tired in the office already the whole day. Then when I come home, I'm still talking and asking a lot of information. I was like, "Oh, maybe he reaches 2,000 words at the office already." So I totally shifted my communication style. So the way I will see if I really need a discussion with my husband, either I'll catch him on breakfast. So I'll say, can we grab and drive through for coffee? Or during lunch, I'll catch him and say, can we just have a quick lunch out? Or I'll just tell him I'm in the mall. Can you meet me here during your lunch break? So these are very simple but very good way to connect with men. And if you also have children, for me, luckily I have two girls. So I understand they're like talking the same like mommy, so many words. But my husband, he gets overwhelmed, as early as he walks up. My kids are very noisy already. So when I explained to him, they need to reach, 2,000 to 20,000 words. So let them be. So this way, he was able to also understand the children. And then that is what's working for us. So Akriti, maybe you can share us, how are your boys doing? In terms of his
I
language.
want to I want to add on what Charlie has said, that he takes out his children out for a date. So because of COVID, a lot of times we are not obviously we are not allowed to go out, or going out is not safe. So it's not that we cannot do dates in the house. So what is the rule of our house? Like, I'll give you a practical example, that uh, it's a rule that by 8:30, once the kids have done their dinner, we as a parent won't use our phones till the kids are sleeping. So maybe they take 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever. So when we sit down as a family, so the father is sitting with one, or maybe I am sitting, or if I'm not there, I'm busy. So he will sit down and read books to them and ask, what happened today, what were you doing, and what. So we don't ask like, how was your day, because it will be like, oh, it was good. So he asked like, what is the best thing happened today, what is the one thing which you didn't like what mama said, because it's a e-learning time and all online classes and everything. So this is how we try to have a open-ended questions, and probably he'll choose the best books what he wants to read, and such kind of examples. Or probably he'll tell the some moral story in a very different way, so that he understand, okay, you don't have to do such kind of things, like shouting back or going against the parents, or how to respect your elders, some kind of things. So it is important. And obviously in Dubai, it is very easy to go to the desert and enjoy. So Fridays and Saturday they go for dune bashing or something, and they talk there,
Mm.
what kind of activities you can do in different ways. So yeah, that's what you can do. And what the slide which you are showing is absolutely right, because everybody says that men talk less and women talk too much, and they are continuously talking, blabbing, but that's not the right fact actually, because men talk, but they have their own way of talking to their friends, because what they talk with their friends is not absolutely the way they talk to their wife. So
True.
this is a very different way. So they feel that if they will talk to their wife in this way, they will get offended. Oh, this is not the way you should talk to me. How are you talking? Because in the friends, we generally talk in any casual way. When we're talking with the wife, it becomes little formal. But it all depends on the relationship what you're sharing with your partner, because if you have made the relationship a very cordial relationship where you are transparent with each other, when you have your set of rules and maybe your set of respect is there. Because I feel that yes, two friends can be friends, they can become maybe boyfriend girlfriend, but when they become a relationship which is called marriage, there is always a thin line of respect. You cannot speak to your wife the way you used to talk to her the way she was your girlfriend. So this comes automatically, no matter she was your girlfriend and then became a wife, but there is always a thin line. So we should maintain that respect, because always remember, of course we talk about gender equality and everything, but it is very important that men have a very different level of ego. We should never kick their masculinity. Like, okay, the male ego is always in a very different category, so we should always respect that. And I really feel that if you respect your husband by the ways we talk, by the way we communicate, by the way we respect, your relationship will go really well. So
That's very nice. I took a lot of I definitely agree with you in all aspects about that. I mean, men are very different in communicating with other men. I was telling my husband, how come you have so many stories to share when you're with your friends? But but I think it's really about respecting, right? What they like to do. And actually, Akriti, thank you for jumping. That is actually our second tip already. First is about knowing yourself, but it's very important to know others. As Lao Tzu said, knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom, and mastering others is strength. See, the moment you understand how your husband functions, how he communicates, it's now easier for you to get things done. Similarly to your children, it's understanding the way to connect with them, because we women might be speaking a lot, mothers, but our words are only 7% of the equation in communication. It's our voice, even if we whisper or we shout, that is our being heard by our children. And a lot of body movements and facial expression as well. So Tasmia, maybe you can share us some examples. How is, in terms of your siblings, or how about your dad? Is he a man of few words also? And how is the disciplining or the relationship working? I mean, in terms of knowing your dad, how is it different to you?
So my dad is a very reserved kind of a person, and he believes in speaking to the point. So he wouldn't go around beating around the bush, telling a nice long story. He just gets to the point, straightforward. But the thing that I like about him the most is that I can nag as
Wow.
much as I want, and then he replies with a one liner, but it makes sense. So the way he focuses on things that I'm talking to him about, and the way he communicates, he'll be responding, and he'll repeat the lines that I've said. So he'll be like, oh, so you felt this way, oh, so it was like that, when was this, how come I didn't know about this earlier, or you needed some time. So the way that he communicates actually build a rapport between us. And during this whole lockdown procedure that happened in UAE is when I actually got to know him better as a father. Because my dad is working, like he works 4 duties, 4 offs, and usually in his 4 offs, I'm either attending university or I'm out working. So, I barely get to see him. So during the whole lockdown is when I spent most of my time with him, and he got to know me as a daughter, and I got to know him better as a father. And I realized that he's not like my mother at all. Like, my mom will gossip, she'll talk, and we'll have this whole one-on-one conversation. But with my dad, he's a very good listener, but he also responds in the right words that you want to hear from. So he's always the right person to go talk to when you're feeling down, because he'll say exactly what you want to hear.
So I'll add on this.
Yeah, yeah. Yes,
And
Akriti, yes, yes.
so the way your father is, we in a parenting we say he's a assertive way of parent. So in
Yeah.
assertive way, you're firm, you're positive, you're confident, you're strict, and you know what you're saying. It's not
Yeah.
like there are three kinds of ways we communicate with our kids. So one is aggressive. You're just nagging, you're shouting, and don't do that, I told you never do that, this is and there are passive way where you are very quietly, baby, please don't do that. So such kind of attitude makes a child, okay, my parents can, I can walk over my parents anytime. The assertive parents are the one, the way your father is.
Yeah.
So now next time when you know that, you have to be like him. Assertive,
Obviously,
confident.
he's actually a role model that I look up to when I think about, growing up in future and
Yeah.
having a family of my own. Because even if it's the littlest thing that has to be done in the house, he wouldn't make you feel offended. Like if it's just my shoes lying around, he'll just be like, "Oh, I have trouble, taking my shoes out, babe." I mean, he'll be like, "Beta, do you mind removing your shoes from there so I can? It will be easier for me." So that makes me feel that, oh, I should have picked my shoes. Now dad's having trouble. So,
Yeah.
the way he communicates on me doing the job done is actually quite smart.
Actually, he uses reverse psychology on you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm
That's
the,
very
and I'm
good,
the
right?
psychology student.
Yeah,
Ah, I
that's
think
great.
Tasmia and Akriti, we're learning a lot from your dad, and we're also learning a lot from Akriti in terms of different parenting styles. And I think if you really want to become a better parent, it's always about you, right? See how Tasmia said, "This is how I want to be when I grow up." A lot of studies said that our children copy, the parents' life. The relationships they end in life is basically the relationships that they saw at home. So this is very critical. And I know the body language is very important, knowing, your family member and giving them a lot of understanding also. And there are different parenting styles, I know. And, in NLP terms, there's a lot of body language. Like, you will already know whether your husband or your children is lying. And the tonality of the voice changes. And, they said in NLP terms, if your eyes roll to the right, you are remembering something. But if your eyes roll to the left, you're lying because you're constructing something. So that's very interesting. So even my children, especially mothers, right? We already know if our children is lying to us. And even my husband, I will already right away catch if they're lying. So understanding body language is a gift of women. But I know men sometimes, even if you roll your eyes, they will never understand it, what it means. But I know every person has different body language. So Charlie, how's your experience with body language with your children? I mean, by now, do you know when are they upset? How are they reacting to you? What is the body language? I mean, in terms of your learning as a parent, and how do you, cope up with that? Because you have boys and girls, right? So how do you use it also?
Yeah, I'm lucky that I learned about body language early on in life. I think if I did not become an engineer, I would have been a psychologist or psychiatrist. So these are of interest to me, and I've learned how to interpret their body language early on. Now, maybe what I want to share here is how my wife disciplines my kids. My wife, uh, she has a she has a knack of interrogating my kids. So she is the type who will just keep on asking and drilling down questions. So it doesn't become a conversation anymore. It becomes I ask the question, you better answer. So and then later on, it goes downhill, and the child just walks out because he just cannot take the interrogations anymore. Uh, and the reason why it happened is because and and she says that the reason she's like that is because her dad is 10 times more of an interrogator. And that's what, and I said, it does not work with the kids anymore. So she better make sure that she catches herself when she starts interrogating. And it has been much better ever since. So going back, that's one of the things I learned when I took up RCW. Uh, I made sure that I I made everybody aware that you do not have to follow what you have learned from your from your parents. So yes.
That's very good. Thank you, Charlie, for sharing. I think, there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom there. Number one, we subconsciously become our parents also because we don't have a model to follow. So if your wife is following what the dad was doing, because in her mind she thought it was right. But yet, different parenting styles might not work now and might not work to other children also. So really understanding your children, understanding also how do you want your relationship to be, right? Because interrogating children can be an investigative mode, which really can be annoying. And I know the third topic will tell us more about that. But what I also like what Charlie said, Charlie is the calmest person I know. So, so you can sense already, right? So I know his children are very lucky already. And one, I just want to share also in terms of problem solving tools. You know, they said this is very important also in understanding. In problem solving, women always want to talk and express, her emotions, get it out. And, that's why we have to keep on talking and talking and talking. But men, on the other hand, they want to be their own solution maker. So what happens if the women has a problem, you should find other women to vent your emotions because your husband also cannot help you at times because we have so much to speak but he cannot absorb it as well. And for wives, please understand that if your husband has a problem, leave him alone because that's the way for him to solve his problem. And if you do have children, if it's a girl, you let their emotions out. I remember, the old parenting style is that when you are upset, you should not express your emotion, right? And you should not even tell what you're feeling. But really, that's why a lot of people are suffering from depression now because from childhood we were taught to suppress our emotions. But the reality is that your emotions are a gift which you need to express. Or if your children are upset, let them be, express their emotions, and that's the best way for them to get their problem solved. So, Tasmia, in terms of problem solving skills, how are you managing this one? Are you the one who wants to speak with your friends, or do you just want to be on a silent mode? And how do you see the difference between you and your dad also?
Okay, so it's a dual role for me in the house and outside the house because right now I have only a single parent, so I don't have a mom. So it's difficult for me to express things at home now because obviously, in terms of emotional support, I think I don't want to overburden my dad because I feel he's going through a phase himself. So I want to give him that space and, keep my emotions to myself. And on the other hand, when I'm outside with my friends, so I'm a very closed person, so I don't have many friends. I keep a very close circle. So I have a bunch of, say, 4 friends that are really close to me. So if I'm feeling, I'll give myself a day or two to understand and actually ask myself the reason behind why I'm feeling a certain way. The first thing I always do is I find out why I'm feeling a certain way and I ask myself questions. So I know the severity of how painful it is for me. And if I can deal with this and cope with whatever I'm feeling by myself, then I try to do things that ease my mind, or I would either paint or write something. So but sometimes when it's a lot to take in is when I reach a friend out, because for me what helps the most when I'm really under my lowest is I want to cry as much as I can, and I don't want to do it alone. So when I do it with someone I trust is when I feel, that even if I fall down, I can be lifted back up. So that's how I cope with my worst days. But on the days when I'm feeling absolutely normal, I mean, it's not too much of a thing that I might need support, is when I'm doing something for the family. So as the elder one of the house, I've somehow developed this motherly instinct as well because I have 2 younger siblings. So I have this whole motherly vibe at home, oh, I have to cook for the family, and what do you guys want to eat? Oh, let me bake something nice for you. So when I'm creating new dishes or making new things, and when my family is enjoying, is when I think that I've done justice to the role. So sometimes when I'm feeling really overpowered by the new responsibility that I've gotten as the elder one and the new mom of the house, I try to create things that would make my family happy. And when they're happy is when I feel that, I've done justice to this responsibility. But on the same side, the same responsibility is what pulling me down. So I'm discussing this with a friend I trust the most. And then I get the right words from them is when I feel positive about myself. So I'm giving myself the space. I'm communicating with people I trust, and I'm doing things that I like in different aspects after figuring out the depth of my lowness, why I'm feeling this way, and the severity. And that's how I decide what plans to make myself self feel better.
Thank you, Tasmia, for sharing that. I wanna honor you for being here and for sharing that. I know your mom just died last year, and I
Yeah.
think I wanna just give you a very big I'll say appreciation for doing this. So I know it's tough, taking the responsibility of the mother in the house. And I think that is the most important thing also, having an outlet, to discuss and having a friend to share your emotions with. This is very important, I think, in terms of your, self-management, especially of your emotions. So I think every person have their own problem solving skills. And if this is working for you, that's very good. So for those also who are children, it doesn't it doesn't matter what your age is, but I think whatever Tasmia shared is very important. You process your emotion based on what fits you, but you should never suppress it because it's the best way. So Akriti, maybe you can share something on that
I
as
think
well.
Charlie wants to say something
Oh
first.
yes, yes, Charlie, of course. Yes, Charlie.
Can I share? Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
definitely, Charlie.
So,
Yes, yes.
so maybe I'd like to share this. One of the things I learned in order to communicate is to uh, be, if there's an issue at all, you have to learn how to bracket your emotions. Have you guys heard about bracketing your emotions? It's difficult, but then you have to take away whatever emotion. Well, maybe men can do that better. You take away your emotions and look at the problem without without emotions. It takes a lot of practice, and you really have to just actively listen to what the person is really trying to say, uh, and put yourself in the shoes of that other person. So that's how I try and communicate with everyone. Well, more difficult when you're a boss in your company, right? But then with the children, that's a little bit easier.
Thank you for sharing that, Charlie. I agree with Charlie. You have to bracket your emotions, but men are expert in this because women are emotional human beings. I can see how much my husband is composed in terms of classifying his emotion. But for me, I will put my emotions first, then do my reflection. That's how it works. But men, I think they'll do reflection first, then emotion. What do you think about that, Akrid? I mean, you're a
I
psychologist, so you will have more
totally agree
thoughts.
with you, but what I feel that men, they feel that they are more practical in a way, because when they go out, like say, I don't say that we women don't know how to be practical, but we our practical way of doing things is a very total different way, because when we say men go out and they work, they have their work issues in the office. So in the house we have one by one issues: cooking, cleaning, kids, work. So our category is a lot of different ways. So our practical way might be in a different scenario because we are trained in such a way. So our dealing of things are different, and the category of difficulties our husbands see in the workplace is different. They have different levels of issues, and we have different levels of issues. So it all depends on the individual differences when we talk about solving problem. But I'm very happy how Tasmi has you have really proved yourself, and you are proving yourself. So what happens when a problem comes? We get overwhelmed with things. Oh, I have to do this. But in that this thing, we forget that it's better to prioritize your things which we need to do first. then go by step, because everything as an individual in 24 hours minus your sleep time, we cannot do anything. And if we don't have a nice good sleep, and we don't eat good food and a proper healthy diet food, we will not be able to function the full day. So it's not about the body who is functioning, it's the mind and the brain as well. We need to give rest to our mind and brain. If we are not resting, we are not able to solve the problem or solve anything or function properly, because somehow what we are doing is all connected to our mind. So that's why we say it is always a connection between mind, body, and soul. So first come the mind, not the body. So, because if you are calm and composed, you are able to think properly how you have to function, what do you have to do, how do you have to plan yourself, because you cannot do everything at one go. You cannot do everything in one day as well. So, sometimes you need to put one thing for the other day or probably for the third day, because that comes on your last step of your priority list. So it's better, I always say, always write down what is the issue going on, because our mind, in like within 1 second, I'm talking to you, I'm seeing the screen, I'm listening, I know, I'm aware what is happening in the background. So many things our mind is grasping in 1 second. So when it times to come up, you're confused because everything your mind doesn't register. It's better to write down whatever thing is coming. Always make a diary along with you, write down, and this will help you to recognize your emotions, your behavior. As I say, communication is nothing but to express your feeling, your emotions, your thoughts, whether you communicate with maybe non-verbal with the verbal. So it is very important. And if you really want to exceed in communicating with any of your partner, kids, yourself, your friends, it's better to understand your way of expressing, emotions, your feelings. So yeah, that's great.
So I would like to add on the basis that you said that it's better to always write it down and everything. So I personally have been keeping journals since I was in eighth grade. I think I have an entire stock of journals that I have now. And the fact that I learned in my psychology degree was the brain only remembers and registers 5% intake of everything that goes around you in 24 hours. So no matter how long the presentation is or how short it is, it's only going to take in 5% of that information that you will remember very well. But what about the other 95%? So that's so just as you said, and I quote that it's better to always keep it in words where you can always look back. And sometimes, keeping a journal helps. How? Because sometimes when you look back at your life's journey, you wouldn't mentally remember every moment. Or maybe you'd probably remember all the negatives over the positive when you're looking back. So when you go back to the journals that you've kept, you'll probably have a laugh, a cry, and you'll probably mock yourself saying, "What was I thinking when I did this?" So, it helps you grow as a person, this. And this I did when I was interning with my cancer patients, is when I asked them to keep a journal of their life. Because this journey is really precious, what they're going through. And every day of their life, if they could either record it in a video journal or an audio journal, or if they're strong enough to write it down, they could do that. And what was more amusing to me was that the awareness has grown so much about expressing and communicating, that I had a patient who's actually making this into her biography, her entire diary. So that was something nice, because she wants the world to see her experience, and she herself said that when she looks back, she feels proud of what she's overcome. So keeping notes of things that you go in your life will never bring you down when you look back. It's only going to push you forward, is what I've always believed.
I will add one last thing on this. It's, often we don't express our gratitude.
Yeah.
We always talk about being negative and we don't have this, we don't do. But if we express gratitude towards our kids, I a lot of times, even to my 2.5-year-old, I keep saying, I'm so happy God has given you to me. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you, baby. And I even tell my 5-year-old, and now he's coming up with things, Mama, are you proud of me? I said, of course, I'm proud of you. No matter what you do, you did wrong, it's okay, I'm still proud of you. So these kind of, and even to my husband, I often say to him that, I'm very lucky that out of zillion of people in this world, God has chosen you as my partner. There must be a reason for it. So I think we, and same for him as well. So it should be like we should not even waste our 10 minutes of fighting in argument, because life is too short. We don't know what happens next. Why are we wasting on stupid things? I mean, come on, if you want to go, go. If I want to go, let it be. So we end up our conversation in this way, that okay, let's not waste our 10 minutes of our life. Khalas. And one important thing we do, even with my kids and even with my husband, and even with my parents as well, if we have a fight, or for xyz reason, there is always a reason for a fight though, but we make sure before sleeping we sort it out and sleep. We don't sleep in that direction, because it is a very bad thing. I mean, it is not a thing which we should do. That, don't end your day by just fighting. Sort it out, take your time, and make it a calm, quiet, nice sleep, even with your kids, even with your husband. This is a very go-to tip, because uh, I always feel that you don't know whether you see the morning or no. So
Yes.
don't have that regret feeling that, oh, I'm so sorry, I will not do, please get up, that kind of thing. Because it is a very practical thing. Everybody has to go one day, but let's not end up in a very bad way. So always remember, talk to your husband, because he will definitely listen to you. He will definitely feel your emotions, because you are the one who have shared him emotionally, mentally, physically. So always have that connection in him, have that confidence in him, because at times we don't have confidence in our husband or in our partner or in our friend, because we ourselves don't have confidence whether our husband or our partner will understand or no. But if you have that kind of feeling, you will not be able to do that. So have that confidence in your relationship with your family, with your kids, with your husband. Yeah.
I'm learning a lot. Thank you, Charlie, Akriti, and Tasmia. I think I want to summarize about journaling. They said we have about 300 to 1,000 thoughts per minute. But the moment you write it down, it really becomes 80 to 100. Actually, with a lot of things going on now, a lot of disruptions, journaling is really very powerful. I've been using it since high school also. And even now, my daughters always see me journaling. And they have also copied me. So they started journaling last year. And I saw my daughters becoming happier because even before they sleep, they count their blessings and whatever emotions need to process. My eldest even have a thought notebook. Whatever thoughts is there, she wants to sleep peacefully. She said, Mommy, let me just dump all my thoughts in this notebook. Then she has a journaling notebook to, count her blessings or to let go of emotions she felt through the day that she doesn't want. Journaling is very powerful, not only for adults, but for children. If you really want to have, a happier life, great relationship, be the model for your children and they will copy you as well. And also, as Charlie was saying, right, it is very important to connect with your children, understand them. And Akriti said, before you sleep, you should be able to solve every problem there is through communication. These are very powerful tools. I hope you're learning a lot. And the last but not the least step to powerful communication is the law of reciprocity. It may sound very simple, right? But it's all about understanding, do to others what you want others to do unto you. I think that's the simplest there is to remember. As Confucius said, what you do not wish for yourself, never do it to others. Number one, what do we mean when we say that? We should listen more and talk less. As they said, that's why you have two ears and one mouth. So you can, listen more and speak less. And remember, there should be a respect in every situation. As Akriti said, your husband is your partner, mentally, physically, emotionally, and you should have respect in every aspect. And I think this love, inspiration, freedom, and education, if you always communicate because of love to your children. I always tell my kids, Mommy is reminding you to brush your teeth because I love you. Because they are annoyed sometimes. I have to keep on reminding, and say, I can also stop reminding you, but mommy is doing this because I love you, because I want it, when you grow up, I want your teeth to be preserved. So when you explain these words to your children, that you're acting and doing things because of love, then they will also follow and listen to you. So maybe just share us more about this law of reciprocity. Is Charlie still there? Or let's go first to the next topic, which I think is more interesting, which is connected also to the law of reciprocity. I think what also we need to understand in NLP terms, women have spaghetti mind. I mean, like, remember, if your mother is upset, she can connect every situation related to the past events. Or if your wife is upset, the wife will always remember the previous fights you had. So, because we women have the gift of mind to really connect things, but men, on the other hand, they have called waffle mind, meaning they can only process and remember one thing at a time. That is why it is very important when you're speaking to your husband or to your children who are men. It is very important to discuss only one topic, because jumping from one topic after another just gets them. Yeah, see, Charlie, Charlie, you will tell more, right? But women, on the other hand, we have a lot of spaghetti mind, so really all things are connected, right? So, Charlie, maybe you can share us more about that.
So, whenever there's an argument, I always say, what is the root of the argument? Sometimes, again, with the spaghetti mind of the girls, everything just gets muddled and jumbled and mixed together. But then it's a skill that one has to look at the root. What is the root of the issue? And sometimes the root of the issue becomes very simple. It's just that all the mud is being thrown towards each other. Everything gets jumbled. Uh, so so that's why I always say focus on one issue at a time. If there are issues that have been discussed before, those were done. Forget it. The issue at hand is what needs to be fixed. So that's how I would say it.
Yeah, you're on mute, Vanda.
Sorry for that, Charlie. Thank you for sharing. I agree with that. You can see right away that the different thinking pattern of Charlie. He always looks at the big picture and the root cause. Because for us women, we're like all over the place. But I think that is where men and women have the power to make things work, right? Because we complement each other. So
I'll
actually,
add on
that's,
just one thing,
yeah.
because when you say spaghetti mind, it's all about reconnection. You know how spaghetti is get connects, right? So the women, because we generally don't. It's not about women also, okay? It's with the men also. It's just we are not letting the negative experience to go away from our mind, because when a situation happens, automatically our minds take us to the negative experience we had with the situation, and then we start blaming. Okay, this is what we know. When you talk about the law of reciprocity, we if we don't listen and talk, which are the two pillars of reciprocity, we start assuming, oh, the same situation, our mind will say, oh, this is what assume, that assumption we do about the men. He will always talk like this, he will do like this, he's always behaving like this. Our kids will, these are the statements we have been saying because we have not corrected our language, and because of that we are start assuming the situation when maybe the situation is different now. You cannot repeat yesterday to today. Maybe the same routine is happening, but there will be always a difference between the morning and the afternoon and the evening. Maybe you are doing exactly the same thing, but it will be always different. The cores are same, but the way you are doing is different. So it is very important to detangle your mind, whether you have a spaghetti or whether you have a waffle, because you have to untie your old memories. Never connect your fight with, first of all, we say na, you're behaving like your mother must have done. You have learned because in the past something happened. So never do that, because this will flare up the fight more, the arguments more. Never bring the parents in between, no matter what. That is one go thing. So Yeah, so a lot of time, and always, one more thing I want to add with the children, when you say, when you want to interact with them, always have a eye to eye contact. So when you have a, even with your husbands, if you have a eye to eye contact, the opposite person is understanding that the person is believing what you are saying, or they are actually understanding. So it is always to have an eye to eye contact, maintain that eye to eye contact fully. So you are able to make other person comply with you. So it is very important. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Tasmia. Do you want to add something on that?
Yeah, sorry, I think I was on mute as well. So, what I would like to add on is that, somehow I relate. Obviously, I'm not a wife yet and I'm not a mother yet, but the whole motherly instinct has been built up now. And this is something that I face with my brother sometimes. And what I realized is that, sometimes we have these negative fights and all these negative thoughts from the past, they pop in your head, and, you start comparing, and then the conversation gets heated up, and then it goes like, you did that to me when you were this, and I go like, you were just like, you're never gonna change. But with time is what I realized, with obviously with my whole education and my researches, and I love reading a lot of papers. So because of that, it helped me to understand that it's always, as Miss Akriti said, that it's always good to detangle your thoughts. So what happens is, whenever I have a fight with my brother, or sometimes with my father or my friends, after the whole conversation has calmed down and cooled down, I take a moment and then I sit with the person, and we together detangle why we crossed our limits with our vocabulary, and what was the reason that triggered us to say things like this, and then we come to a conclusion and we make a deal that from now onwards, if we have a similar fight like this, we're not going to say these words. Instead, we would say these. So we come to a conclusion of how we want to deal with a similar problem in future that we might face. So that's how we discuss, we communicate, and we go to the root cause of the reason why we went so personal and brought up things from the past, and we erase those negativities from our mind, so that we remember that, okay, the next time I have the similar fight, I promised my friend or my brother that I'm not going to bring these things from the past, because that's already been sorted and buried. So it's not good to remove buried dead bodies all the time.
So I'll tell you a very simple activity on that, and this I think we all should do, because I have been doing this since a lot of time. You, one thing which keeps coming in your mind every time when you have an argument or fight with anybody, okay, or when you're sitting and you are thinking about old memories which is really bothering you and which changes your mood all of a sudden, at times when we sit down and all of a sudden a memory pops up,
Yeah.
and you feel very bad and very sad. Why did it happen to me, and what did I do that I don't deserve this? Write down in a piece of paper, tear it up and throw this in the dustbin, and tell your mind and give the affirmation that it's gone, it's done, it will not be back, and it is like yesterday never comes today, and it will not, and you don't know about the future. So what you know is today and the right moment, because you are living in that and you're mindful of doing that. So being mindful means you erase that memory at all. How it will go, from your brain, how it will go? Any bad memory will go only when you clearly cut it out. Okay, so because you can train your mind by doing this. Like, if you want your child to get out of the pacifier, okay, you just don't immediately take out the pacifier from the mouth. There are steps. Okay, so once the child, you take out the pacifier, or you give away, or you tell the child to throw this in the dustbin. So next time when the child asks, oh, you are the one who threw this in the dustbin, so it's gone. That's how you have to make the mind understand, okay, it's not there now, it's gone. That's how I removed the pacifiers from my kids. So they were very bad sleepers. So I told my elder one, go give this to Jackie, he's hungry, he also wants to sleep. He was 18 months old and he has given the pacifier to my dog. Khalas, it's gone. And he's like, where is the pacifier? I said, you gave to Jackie. The other one, I told him to throw this in the dustbin. So his mind got tuned that I am the one who did, it's over. So train your mind by whatever thought or memory which is disturbing you, just write it down with your conscious mind, with your mindful mind. Before tearing it, tell, I am tearing this and it is going forever from my mind and it will never come back. Finish. So try this
That's
and it will
very
really help.
powerful. Akriti, that's very powerful. I do that also. Actually, writing is one of the ways because see, when we eat food, we have to get it out of our body, right? That is how thoughts are. You have to get it out of your system to get it clean. So if you do have, I use this a lot with my clients also. Like if something is bothering them for a long time, if it's a memory, if it's a block or something, you just write it down in a paper, say a prayer of release and surrender and an affirmation that this is gone now and forever and I am now free. A lot of this might sound very simple, but this simple surrender or writing has landed my clients new jobs, it has landed them new babies, a lot of things happen, promotions, because really by just getting those negative thoughts out of your system really helps. So thank you for sharing that. And lastly, this is one of the last slide. Talking about the spaghetti and waffle mind, we women have the gift of multitasking. That is why for men, if you want to keep us busy, give us many things to do. And also for women, for mothers and also for wives, give your husband one big task at a time and he will do it. If you give him too many things, he'll drop all of it. This is what I learned. This is only not applicable at home. At work also, if you do have staff who are men, you should not overwhelm them. Give them only big tasks. But women, on the other hand, has the capacity to do a lot of things. So that is very good. So we are almost in the end of the discussion. I want to thank. Let me just recap. Three steps. I learned a lot today. Thank you, Tasmi, Akriti, and Charlie. Three steps to powerful communication. So your husband and kids will listen to you, know yourself, know others, and know the law of reciprocity. And I would just like to invite those people who wants to join. The next webinar is about work-life balance. So it's about mommy secrets to balancing work and life. And also for those corporates who want to empower their women, Working Moms Academy have now corporate programs for women, executive presence on how to master executive presence, girl boss, how can you become a leader, right? So these are women only programs that we are now offering to every corporate. So just type bit.ly women corporate programs and you will find more about that. And of course, I want to invite people to join the LinkedIn group for mothers, bit.ly capital letter WMA support group. You will find the recording of this webinar and also some webinar notes. I learned a lot from Tasmi, Akriti, and Charlie, from writing to processing emotions to dealing with the opposite sex and with siblings, as well as Tasmi was saying. And if you do want to have access to our online courses, go to bit.ly WMA School and Working Moms Academy. Already have free courses on how can you land the job of your dreams. How can you move from burnout to blaze? I shared there about the writing also. And how can you reinvent your career? And of course, there are also, let me just move to the next slide. These are free courses that we want to invite you to join. That's my last slide. I would like to thank Tasmiya, Akriti, Charlie. Last words. I think deep gratitude from my heart for all your sharing. I learned a lot. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so
Last
much.
words from each one of you. Tasmiya, do you want to start?
Actually, I would really like to thank you, and I'm really, really obliged that, I was given this opportunity. And being the youngest one in the lot right now, there's so many things that I learned for my future self, and there were so many experiences that I could share that might have helped people, and it was these kind of things are good, these discussions help because you're always learning, and that's what I love doing. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tasmia. For those of you who want, Tasmia is open for work, is open to work. So if she can be of help, you can sense how much maturity she has and learning. So I hope, if somebody needs something with your expertise, they can get in touch with Tasmia on LinkedIn directly. And Akriti, any last words from you?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for such an amazing opportunity and making me meet Charlie and Tasmia. Really, really enjoyed this session. I want to say two things. Always, first thing is always express your gratitude to have to whoever is linked with you, no matter you meet those person for maybe half an hour or 1 hour, because when we meet anybody, we are always learning. Don't think that, oh, what a waste of time when we meet. No, there is always a reason to meet. And second, a very nice thing I always love to say is unlearn to learn. When you will unlearn your past things, you will be able to learn more new things, more techniques, more tips, more ways to deal with things. So because our world is surrounded with a lot of things, our happiness, our sadness, our tough time, our amazing time. So always be an open minded person. So don't be stick to one person, one thing that, okay, I know this is the way we do it, but no, this might be a wrong way. So unlearn that thing, what you have learned, and learn something new from the other person. So there is a better way to deal with things than what you have learned by your past experiences. So that's what I want to say. Thank you so much. I hope my tips will help you all, because these are all practical tips which I give to my clients and I have learned from them. So when they come back and they tell me this is what improvement they have seen, so of course if it can work with you, it might be work with you as well. So try it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Akriti, for sharing. I always use this quote. They said the illiterate of the 21st century is those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's one of my I don't remember who said it, but I definitely agree. The illiterate of this century is not those who cannot really read or write, but those who cannot unlearn and relearn, because the world is constantly changing, and that is what really Working Moms Academy's advocacy is about. The old ways of living are not valid anymore, so we need to keep on learning from each other, right? And I really am thankful, Akriti, Tasmia, for your time, and of course, last not but the least, Charlie, any final message?
Yeah, it's supposed to just be a guest listener here, as you said, right? Why am I talking so much? I'm not. Men don't talk as much as I do. I've been talkative ever since I started working in this. Anyway, last words. Yeah, journaling is what I do every morning is write a journal in my gratitude diary. So it's really more of things that I did the day before. So I mixed it together. I've been doing that for I think more than a year already. I think I have to start separating my files. It's getting bigger and bigger. It should be on 1 year per file now. And before it was just a list of the things that I experienced, but now it's starting to have more meat into it, like my thoughts and my frustrations. And uh, maybe one of these days, Wanda, you have to do some journaling or gratitude diary training here. What I can say is that if you nothing that well, you write anything that gets into your mind, then later on, after a few days or after a few months, you start reading back what you've written, and you start saying that things have been getting better and better, right? I think that's one of the things I've noticed. I also noticed that I become more introspective. Is it because of the journey or is it because of the age? I don't know. Maybe it's both as well. Anyway, guys, thank you. It was a great experience for me to be part of this. Wanda, thank you for inviting me. So, Akrita
Thank you so
and
much, Charlie, for sharing that. It surprises me, right? Like, I mean, thank you for your honesty, Charlie. I thought journaling is only to women, but see, for men, it doesn't discriminate. I mean, if just hearing from Charlie in terms of what are the benefits of journaling, it is really a lifesaver. For me, I mean, I saw my journal 8 years ago, and everything I wrote happened already. So it's not only about processing emotions, it's about achieving your dreams as well, because writing gives your mind direction. So I know our topic today is how to talk so your husband and kids will listen, but we covered a lot of topics, and I'm very fortunate to have Charlie, Akriti, and Tasmiya. Thank you so much for your time. Please reach out to them on LinkedIn and connect with them, because I know there's so much that you can learn from. And thank you, Annette, for Annette said you can always contact her if you want to go to Puerto Rico. She's joining us live from Puerto Rico. So thank you, Annette. And for those who are watching us live, I hope you do learn a lot. I did learn a lot today. And I hope to see you again next week for the weekly live webinar of Working Moms Academy as we talk about how to balance life, family, and career. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay
Bye.
safe.
Bye,
Bless you.
everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Charlie. Bye.